I think it's recording now, right? Okay, I think someone mics is on. Eduardo. Okay. Oh no, Eduardo. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to continue. I'm going to edit it later, okay? So let's start. Okay, hello everyone. This is Upn Israel Camarillo Madrid speaking. By the way, I used to work at Pachuca and Francisco y Madero Polytechnic universities, but now I work as an English teacher at Severis 83 in Upn Hidalgo. So I'm currently studying the specialization or specialty in English language learning and teaching as a foreign language at the National Pedagogical University. I'm proud to say that my instructor is Gabriela Ruiz de la Rosa, or as we call her, Teacher Gabi. And this presentation is about my pedagogical intervention proposal. I decided to call it a transversal approach of activities in middle high education with emphasis on the vertical similarity of linguistic content. I hope you enjoy it. Just one quote before we start. Abdul Kalam once said that without your involvement, you can't succeed. And with your involvement, you can fail. So we have to be involved. And now, the context. The group that I worked with was 2ABP, that's for programming. It is formed of 46 students in total, 22 male and 24 female. They are between the age of 15 to 17 years old. As I mentioned before, the school is Severis 83, which belongs to the HETI, okay? And from SEP, of course, a public school. That's the working center code. And the English class, okay, we have 3 hours weekly, okay, and we have 5 weeks per partial. That means in 3 partials, we have a grand total of 45 hours in total. And now, before the lesson plan, I was thinking a lot about how am I going to address this activity. I was able to observe that the topics that have grammatical similarities, not only in English, but also in Spanish, like grammar translation, were also addressed in different tenses. And not only that, but in different semesters. I'm talking like, for example, about present simple in the first semester, simple past in the second semester, then the first and second partials, present continuous in the first semester, third partial, and past continuous on second semester, third partial. So I saw the possibility to take advantage of these characteristics and similarities and address them. I dared to address them simultaneously and with evaluation standards based on performance matrices of an integrating product divided by specific skills. So I started to study the plans and programs, the context, and the materials previously used. Before the pandemics, we have a lot of editorials that we were using their materials. So also the approaches and methodologies and how we apply them in crowded classrooms. That's important because we have more, at least 40 students, more than 40, okay, always. I also check grades and achievements, okay, that we have. And by that, I mean, if they have a 10, what does that represent in the real world? Can they speak now? Can they, I don't know, ask for anything? What does a 10 means actually? After that, I made a list of all the topics by semester required, and I started to work on a taxonomy proposal, well, my proposal, based on the student profile and the generic competences. Okay, I made a skill distribution, okay, and a validating mesh. This was important because this is the first time I take a specialty or something about English teaching because I am not an English teacher, okay? So I made this as a validating mesh, for example, for writing. which I made from all the lessons to follow the steps and the characteristics of the strategies, like for writing, no? Then I thought that the plan template must be changed to fit this proposal, but there was a huge problem again, the time. We have very short time and lots of students. So I decided to work with a flipped classroom methodology. And that will give us extra time, or at least some time, to focus on skills and not just presentation practice and production of grammar, because most of the times that we face, we want them to know or understand at least something, okay? So now, what about the lesson plan? The lesson plan has been divided as follows, okay? First, the general information, okay? And then 3 activities of what I call autonomous learning that are under the flipped classroom model. 3 activities with 3 YouTube videos where the grammatical topic is addressed. During the week, it's explained that before the class. Immediately after they watch those 3 activities, or they do those 3 activities, we start face-to-face classes, or the real 3 hours. That's where they start. Okay, with a warm-up activity from, I take like 20 minutes, and 2 integration activities. And this is where they put into practice what they saw in the videos. During the next hour, there are 3 activities of what is called developing that focus on receptive skills. And at this stage, we work with understanding the input that became intake. After that, the next and last hour, okay, we face 2 production activities and 1 evaluation activities. As you can see, all the activities face-to-face are planned to fit only 20 minutes, but that's not actually true, because those activities are planned to be completed in 10 minutes. So I'm leaving half of the time in case that we have a situation that we have to do it again, to explain again, to approach a specific student and everything, okay? So the face-to-face classes have ended now. However, the flipped classroom continues, the asynchronous activities continues, and this is the follow-up activity with 1 activity, okay? And in this activity, they are going to face like listening and reading exercise that takes a lot of time during classes and to be checking each one of the students. So it's a really hard or impossible job to do, okay? On every class, of course, we can do it all in a week or in a partial, in a semester, but on every class is difficult, okay? So now, for this, I designed booklets, and I designed too the digital one, the digital booklet, which the students will have at all time. This, by the way, I designed, so I spent a lot of time doing this, and I am not artistic or anything like that, so it was hard for me. The digital one, which the students will have at all time in their gadgets, mostly cell phones. This booklet I decided to be or to be presented in a PDF format due to the user interface, okay? And most of the gadgets have PDF readers. I also found that the links on pictures, if you just place the link or you put the link on pictures or icons, they send you directly to the web page recommended, not like in Word that you have to click on Control first. So I use a lot of information and communication technologies, or ICT, for everything: videos, audios, activities, exercise, tests, quizzes. And the learning management system that I used was Edmodo, because I had worked with them before in that platform, when only half of the group was in class every week. So now, for the printed booklet, even when they have the same activities, they present different characteristics, because in this one, students are supposed to write and do all the products and exercises. So it had to have different format, fonts, size, starting with left, right format, okay? And what I call an improvement chart, that is what we are watching now. That is where they can follow the progress and have clear view of their final grades. All exercise like this as example, have different cognitive levels like this one, okay? And we're planned for that. We start with inference to see their level. In the second stage, they have the support of their digibook to choose from options, okay? And finally, they have to hear an audio track to check or write the correct word. So maybe it looks like just one activity, but we can make it like, I was planning like different taxonomy levels. So maybe a student just reached the level 1, okay? So maybe they don't understand anything on listening, but they can choose from the options, okay? Given the clues, the contextual clues, okay? It says yesterday, so it was, and it's not it is because it's mentioned yesterday, it's mentioned yesterday, okay? So now, what about the implementation? On the HETIS English program for second semester, it's established that the total course will have 3 partials with 5 weeks, as I mentioned before, and we will meet those days, okay? But I decided to work with the job embedded learning, especially using some of the ideas of Sally Cepedas in some of her books. I love her books. And as in the last chart, all activities are planned under the premises that we can take apart just the skill, but we can put emphasis on it. Okay, so we have an integration of skills. Edmodo was always present, as I mentioned before, for all online activities. Here is some example, that an activity that I placed in Edmodo. And the intercultural information, I decided to work as a pretext. What does that mean as a pretext, okay? Maybe we are asked to cover a lot of topics, like in the HETI, it's called Construyete, and they ask us to take about 15 minutes every week to work with those charts. But I think if we can put them in a text, if we can put them in an exercise in English, at your level, at your topic, okay, that you are addressing, that will be great, because that will be a pretext to be understanding. So in this case, intercultural information was addressed like that, okay? For example, Malala Yousafzai and Asser Malik, that they are currently married, okay? But with a total different history just because of gender. So they have to discover that. They have to infer that information, okay? Malala was trying to get to school when she was shot, okay? That's it. But what was Asser Malik doing at that time? He was playing at the school. He was happy, okay? So they have to understand that. Another, about the different countries and cultures, like from Pakistan that we were talking, Iceland and Mexico, okay? To see all the difference between the genders, and not just like that, because we have a lot of racism too, okay? So now, let's continue with the implementation. For each activity, I have analyzed with the HIME speaking acronym to see if they fit students' need, but especially the ends and instrumentalities. I also use the Krashen's theories of second language acquisition, but especially in the input hypothesis. Our students have to be faced with comprehensible input first, and then use that input to make sensorial experience and become intake. And what does that mean? As teacher Gabby mentioned before, they have a lot of vocabulary now. They have video games, they have series, they have streamers, they have a lot of information. They just don't know how to glue that information to share some comments, to feel or to make some sentences. So that's where I decide to work with this activity. And now, as far as for assessment and evaluation, they have all those activities and rubrics, okay? For assessment, I think this is one of the most important aspects to be, to be successful in our different attempts. The assessment provides, first of all, have to be found on a specific skill. So we have to understand what we are teaching, what we are dealing with, okay? and using a specific strategy, and it has to be part of a general effort and fit the stage that is required. Like in this example, first we work with processing meaning, because even if the students came from pandemics, they are not totally on blank, as I mentioned. Okay, so now maybe they have a lot of information, so they have to use those words and knowledge in an activity, but first they have to understand how they fit. After that, the recognition of phrase boundary, and in the last exercise, the students play, for example, if the students play Call of Duty or any other game, the first thing they see in their consoles or their games is the word loading, okay? As in your own, loading. So what do we have to do with that word, with that vocabulary, with that information they already have, and they fully understand it, okay? To express something in a real situation. For example, Call of Duty was loading when the light went off, because they already used the simple tense, the simple past tense. Another important aspect I strongly believe is the schema theory. I work a lot with maps and graphic organizers, okay, like this one. If they can use an image that is the meaning of a conceptual map, to use all the information in there to make a lot of sentences, they only have to remember information that was already in their brains, like pronouns, verbs. And for complement, I always use questions like what, where, how, when, which, and why. It's amazing how students start first very slow, and they are very shy to start, but they start step by step, filling the chart without the need of a dictionary or a translator. Just by saying, I don't know, maybe you ask them, okay, actions, and they're all quiet. They don't want to participate. They are shy. And I ask, hey, what am I doing? What am I doing? And some of them say dancing, and some of them may just say dance. Some of them may answer in Spanish, bailas, or baila, okay? And I say, oh yeah, dancing, okay? I am dancing, okay? And now, and I start to jump, okay? So now, oh, you are jumping, or jumping, just jumping. Okay, okay. So now tell me about some places. And some of them may go like, places? Yeah, like, where are we now? Where are we? We're in the school. No, no, no. Okay, in the school, yes. But here, this is specific place. This is specific room. Oh, classroom, yes. No, 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 teacher, we're in Actopan. Yes, we are in Actopan. We are in the school, we are in the classroom. So now, can you make a full sentence with that with all that information? And some of them goes like, oh yeah, the teacher is dancing in the classroom, or he is dancing in the classroom, and so on. So that's how these maps or conceptual maps or graphic organizers work. So I love them. I really love them. And this is just an example of one of the real graphic organizers they make. As far for the speaking, we work mostly with, okay. By the way, I almost forgot to mention this. Okay, this is the activity that they make. And they have to make it first on the printed book, okay, to follow the clues on the digital book. And then they have to record it, okay? They have to record it. So we work mostly with pre-communicative activities, and they finally make audios and videos, but they were faced first with the structure and then with basic communicative activities, which are the way to prepare them to use them freely in a real context. The important thing here is co-evaluation, because they were asked to work in pairs, not to help each other, just to work in pairs, because the grade or the participation will be handle, like if they work in pairs, but if they have mistakes, they have to do it again, and they both have to work again, okay? So they are co-participants in their grades, and they finally share it by WhatsApp, okay? By WhatsApp and an image from their printed book. And now, when we talk about reading, we use the traditional skimming and scanning. I strongly believe that the students have to understand that. So they understand that there is no need to understand every single word in a text. They just have to be conscious on the information they are looking for. And after that, we use the SQ3R, okay, that I think is survey or search, question, read, recite, and review. And finally, the writing with control and guided writing with prompts and examples using the graphic organizer. That's where I mentioned. They have to use only the graphic organizers, not translators, not dictionaries, not asking to the teacher. They just have to ask the graphic organizer. And if they see that they couldn't do it because they don't have enough information, they have the opportunity to change that and to make another, to make them their own, their personal graphic organizers with information they use. Because maybe I provide a verb list with some verbs that I consider like common or the most common verbs on the internet or something like that, 50, 100 verbs, I don't know, 20, 10, and they are never going to use it because those are not the words they use actually, okay? So they have to personalize their graphic organizers. And this is one of the products that they present. By the way, with intercultural text, they have to research. They have to research and to make sentences and, I don't know, to make a comparison between past and present, okay? Like in this case, Anna made a comparison of how the genders were treated in the past and now, okay? And then have to record a video and send it to me, okay? So that was that part, the specific activity, because I work a lot with them. And now, we have to understand what was mentioned on some of my colleagues' presentations, the formative and the summative assessment, as Brown stated, but also to understand that we have traditional evaluation and performance or product-based assessment, okay? I use them both. I want to be honest, okay? I know that we have to be facing more like PBA, but I feel the need to use them both. I use especially ideas of Tobón, Pimienta, and Garcia. This is one of my favorite books about assessment, and this is not one of my favorites. One, I think, is of the few texts in Spanish that works in that way. Assessment and evaluation as separate and individuals, because most of the time in Spanish, we don't have like the translation for assessment. We have it like acompañamiento, but it's not the same. We just translate it as evaluación, both words. So we need to use them, okay? So I work with self-assessment, and in this part, as you can see, that chart is for listening, grammar, and reading. Why? As Liz was mentioned, okay? Maybe we can focus a lot on all the activities that are the skills that we want to change the way of teaching, but it doesn't matter because in college or when they are given a standardized test, they have to face grammar, listening, and reading. So I didn't include them on grades. I didn't. I just said, okay, this is to follow your progress and your grades that you have on platforms and on exercise here in class, but you have to write the number, just the number that you get. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to take it into account or in an average of your final grade. Just you have to know what you will get in a standardized test. Okay, so that's a self-assessment. They have to be followed that progress. The co-assessment, as the last exercise, they have to work with each other and they have to fill some rubrics. I have a rubric later on. and the hetero assessment, okay? That is just the test as we know. And now, we have evaluation matrices, and of course, here we go, okay? Of course, I already mentioned the PBA. We had to develop and design some rubrics and matrices, but we have to take into account also what they are facing in the immediate future. That is university or college. And here we go again. I think here is the problem. In junior high, they start with simple present and move on, A1. On high school, we do the same. And in college, most of the time, that was my question, most of the time, it's the same conditions. So what's going on with cycle curricula? And how in college do we decide what level our students are? Through an interview? Through a phone call? No, we make tests. TOEFL ITPs or IBTs or school platforms type test means a standardized test that we have not prepared our students to face. And one last thing that I applied was this part, okay? That means I prepared the diagnostic, that means the pre-test and the summative grammar, that the post-its with the same items. So I applied this, for example, this as the diagnostic, a simple chart, okay? I'm talking about present continuous and past continuous. So they have to fill, okay? They have to fill those charts, okay? And those spaces, those blanks. And I give them what we saw just before the last partial, okay? A simple sentence. And these were the results, okay? In this image, you can see that they are making the diagnostic activity and they are using what they knew at that time. That is the simple tense, in present and past, even in the interrogative form with the auxiliary do. And at the end, just a few days ago, because I was in a hurry, because I think that I was not going to finish, okay? These were the results, some of them. And now, it's very important to mention that this test, I know it's just grammar, was not taken into account in their final grades, as I mentioned. They already have their grades. I mentioned that this test was just for me, so I can see if they have learned or not. So I asked for some voluntaries. And as voluntaries, only 33 students out of 41, that was the final number of students, decided to take the test. From 19, have 0, from that 19, get between 0 and 5 mistakes. 10 have more than 15 mistakes, and 4 didn't answer anything. And also they don't have any materials or activities too. So maybe they just took the test to see if they get some score or anything. But what is important here is that 57% of those students reached the goal. 30% are in progress, and only 13% didn't make it. That actually represents a huge number for me, because I was always asking, what is a 10? I applied the same strategies with another group, okay, to see the correlation, how they move. And it was not the same result. Without the booklets, it was not the same result. Even if I have some problems, and I'm going to discuss them later, I have to change some of the activities, because I was talking only about intercultural activities and text and Malala and Iceland and everything, okay? About the gender pay gap and all those topics. And I start to see that they were like getting bored. So I decided to switch the activity, okay? And I asked them to watch just a small video, 1 minute each, okay? One from Simba talking to Mufasa, okay? Where all that you like and touch, blah, blah, blah. That was the video, just a little bit less than a minute. And another where he is starting with Timon and Pumbaa, okay? And now, what happens here? So I asked them to write sentences on the marker board and not even using the graphic organizers. They can use only their smartphones or their cell phones or their gadgets to watch the videos, and then they have to put them away, okay? So there's no help. And these were the results. Not everybody participated, but I was amazed because they were engaged. And then we continued with, of course, with the intercultural activities, okay? So now, the outcomes. The outcomes, I think it was, we have great participation and interaction. A lot of text, videos, audios, they solve tests and quizzes, and they use the WhatsApp, okay? But I have, like I mentioned before, I have to use some authentic materials that I didn't consider at the beginning or at the planning. And above all, they finally were helping each other. They were looking for information by their own. However, I mentioned that at the beginning, students, now reflection on students, the students didn't do the autonomous activities or the follow-up. They only copy their answers or activities and present them just like to present something, but they were not engaged or motivated. So I have to adapt all my activities and I start to use them in class. So I have learned not to pretend anything until I can verify it. Most of students see education as something simple, easy, but above all, unnecessary and useless. And now, my reflection as a teacher. First, my teaching philosophy was based mainly on two currents, and I always mention that. The first is subjectivism, okay? Because according to that, all knowledge is limited to the subject, okay, who has it. And in this way, the teacher can only help to develop the knowledge and abilities that he possesses, the way he considers the best and based on his previous experiences. That is one way or another. He repeats or contradicts the patterns with which he was brought up. The second one is empirism, that emphasizes experience and evidence through senses. However, through the implementation, I realized that sometimes you cannot leave the students in total freedom, hoping that everything goes as planned in circumstances. It is good to return to behaviorism sometimes, especially when the students are forced into the classroom. They don't want to be there. Another thing that I must change is I have to be, or to have more empathy, to emphasize being emphatic with the students when we think that students do activities. Something I learned is to dare to try new things. They may not work, or they may not be welcome, and even the results may not be significant, but I consider that it's worse to remain as, what was the quote? Okay, to remain as a still water that little by little is spoiled. We can observe the study plans. We can observe the study plans, okay, as something sacred and untouchable. But we will always continue to do the same as the SEP recommend, the same as our maybe state academies recommend, okay? Without having a significant impact on class time. I think we can do transversal activities. We can have different approaches. We can change the traditional curricula, but we have to record all the information, to save all the information, to present it. And of course, we have to change the way we grade. As I mentioned before, I think the new curricular framework, this curricular framework they are offering, the 2022, invite us to carry out contextualized implementations and to keep track of each step in order to present success stories, which allow us to start moving the traditional curriculum. And one of the things is maybe we have to take away the grades 1 to 10 or A or B, and maybe we can think on rubrics or matrices. so they can see their actual use of the skills. Well, I was really, really nervous about this. These are my references, and thank you. Thank you all. Let me see.